Hey guys, welcome back to this C++ series. In this video, we will take a look at one of the most easiest and basic program that you can write using any programming language, the Hello World program. We have already seen this program in last two videos, but today we'll try to understand what each and every line of this program means. Without wasting any time, let's launch code blocks. Now, if you already have one of the last two projects and you have not made any changes to the code, you can open any one of them by either clicking on one of these links in recent project section, or you can go to File tab, click on New, and then navigate to the directory containing .cbp file. So for example, I'll open the compilers.cbp file and it will launch the project. If you don't have any existing project, you can create a new one. Once your project is ready, go to the sources folder and double click on main.cpp. This will open up that file in this middle section. Now let's go through each of these lines and try to understand what they mean. So the first line is #include iostream. So please don't call this character as pound and definitely don't call it hashtag. It is simply called hash. So the lines starting with hash are special lines and are called preprocessor directives. This is because they are instructions for a program called preprocessor. In the last video, you might remember that I said compilation happens in multiple stages. So there is one more stage which our code goes through before compiling and linking. And that stage is called preprocessing. And preprocessor is responsible for this stage. So this #include iostream basically tells the preprocessor to include code from a file called iostream. If you want to see the contents of iostream, just right click on it and select open #include iostream. This will open up the iostream file and you can see that it has some code in it. So basically each C++ compiler comes with some standard files called standard header files. And you can see all of them by opening the folder containing this file. For that, I'll right click on it and select open containing folder. So as you can see, it opens up the directory where all these files are located, and it is under mingw, which comes with the code block setup that we downloaded. So you can see there are so many files, and these are all provided by the compiler vendor so that developers don't have to write everything from scratch. These headers provide a lot of features which will make our coding easier. So when you write this #include and provide a name of header in these angular brackets, the preprocessor looks for that file and copies all the code of that file into your main.cpp. For example, when we'll compile this program, this line will get replaced by all this code from iostream like this. Now this change does not exactly happen to main.cpp. Instead, preprocessor generates a temporary file with the replaced code and feeds this temporary file to next stage of compilation. So let's roll back these changes so that we have our original code. Now to understand why this #include is needed, let's delete it and then build and run our code. So you can see that we get an error down here which says cout was not declared in the scope. Now this message does not make much sense, but what C++ compiler is basically saying is it does not understand what this cout means. And this is because we removed the iostream #include, which contains the definition for cout. So to use things from standard headers, you will have to include them using #include. So let's add that line back. Now let's move on to the next one, and it is using namespace std. This line is not exactly necessary in this program, but if you remove this line, you'll have to add std in front of cout and endl like this. If I build and run this code, you'll see that the output is still same. Now to explain what namespaces are, it will take one whole video, and it is not that important as of now. But you can think of namespaces as a way to organize your code in logical parts. Like all the UI related stuff might be in a namespace called UI, and all the math related stuff will be in a namespace called math, and so on. So std is a namespace that contains all the standard C++ stuff, like this cout and the endl. So if you want to use stuff from standard C++ libraries, you'll have to add std : before it. But to save some typing, you can write using namespace std, like this. Generally, I don't like to have this using namespace std, and I have good reasons behind it, but we will discuss that in a separate video dedicated to namespaces. Now, the next line says int main. So this is known as a function. Here, int is a data type and main is the name of this function. Again, functions is a big topic in itself, but to put it in short, function is just a block of code that has a name and a body. At this point, it is totally fine if you don't understand what this means. We will go through this again when we'll cover functions in detail. But for now, just keep in mind that main is a special function which gets executed by default when you run your program. This function is also called as the entry point of a program. Generally, each C++ program needs to have a main function. Now, as I said, functions have a name and a body, and the body of a function is always written in these curly braces. So you can see that the body of this function starts at line 6 and ends at line 9. So when the execution of this main function will start, all the lines from the start of function body to the end of function body will get executed one by one. You can see that code blocks helps us to visualize the start and end of this function with these lines. And if I click on this minus sign, it will collapse the body. And if I click on it again, it will again expand the function body. Now this next line is what exactly prints the hello world text on the screen. This cout that you are seeing here is also known as standard character output device. Generally, this device will be your screen. Then these two less than signs, when combined together, are known as insertion operator. Next is this text or string that you want to display. Notice that it is written in double quotes. All strings in C++ must be inside double quotes. And then again we have an insertion operator followed by endl. Endl is used to end a line in C++. And at the end we have a semicolon. Every C++ statement needs to end with a semicolon, with some exceptions like functions. So this whole line can be understood as this. This cout is your screen. Then you are inserting this hello world string into cout. This will display it on your screen. And finally, you are inserting endl. This will end the line. For now, let's skip this return 0 because we will cover that in functions video. Now to understand what exactly this endl does, let's first build and run our program to see what the current output looks like. Note how this hello world and process return line have an empty line in between them. Now let's close this and I'll remove this endl. So be careful here and don't remove this semicolon or else you'll get errors. Now if I build and run this again, you can see that we no longer have that empty line between hello world and this next line. Now don't think that endl just adds a blank line between two lines. It just moves the cursor to the next line. To understand this, let's print one more line. For this, I'll write cout insertion operator and then a string. And I'll end it with a semicolon. And now if we save and build and run this code, you'll see that the output gets printed on a single line. So the key point to take here is, it does not matter how you write your code in the CPP file. The output will not move to a new line unless you tell it to do so. So if you close this and add back the endl, and then I build and run this again, you'll see that the second string has moved to a new line. So before we end, I would like to show you that the structure of this code does not really matter. That means all these blank lines and spaces are just to make the code human readable. So even if I move all this code onto a single line, except the first line, because each preprocessor directive has to be on a separate line. And now if I build and run this code, you'll see that it still works the same. Nothing has really changed in the output. But you can see that now it has become much difficult to tell what this code is doing just by looking at it. And that is why we follow some formatting guidelines to keep the code readable. So as a quick tip, if you feel that your code is looking too ugly and needs some formatting, just right click anywhere in this empty space and select Format Use A Style. This will automatically format your code to make it readable. So that was it for this video. Now we have a basic understanding of what this code means. From the next video, we will start looking at data types and variables. If you still have any doubts, you can post them in the comment section below, or you can join my Telegram channel. Link will be in the description. So if you like this video, hit that like button, subscribe for more such videos, and I'll see you in the next one.